A dark fate awaits Hellboy, the half-demon, half-man hero of creator Mike Mignola's decades-spanning gothic comic book adventure. Born to be the beast of the apocalypse, but raised to be a hero, the story of Hellboy is the tale of a man who resists the pull of darkness to the point of nearly breaking himself. But nevertheless, fate and its many agents come calling. Over the course of 25 years of Dark Horse comics, Hellboy battled Nazis, gods, demons, sorcerers, and interdimensional beasts who seek to unlock his dark destiny as a means to their own ends. These many villains are dangerous on their own, but forging Hellboy and his right hand of doom into their own personal weapon would destroy the entire world. Taken individually, these stories often feel like contained, stylish forays into gothic horror. But when read together, Hellboy's many temptations and their cumulative effects on the mind and soul of the hero turn Mignola's epic story into a tragedy, and its pulp adventurer into a Byronic hero. Time and time again, Mignola returns to the temptation and destiny of Hellboy. Bit by bit, his true nature is revealed to both reader and character. And while the first Hellboy miniseries, Seed of Destruction in 1994, collides the hero with Grigory Rasputin, the man responsible for bringing him to Earth during World War II, the central themes of the series were not formed until later. It would be in 1996, during the 5 issues of Wake the Devil, where Mignola would bring Hellboy face to face with his darker nature and set a series of apocalyptic encounters in motion centered on Hellboy's many temptations. Wake the Devil picks up with Hellboy and the BPRD traveling to Romania to investigate the potential resurrection of Vladimir Jurescu, a vampire with ties to the Nazis. What the team suspects to be a possible dead end soon brings them into conflict with a Nazi remnant tied to Project Ragnarok and Rasputin. However, Mignola eschews expectations of this being another Nazi battle, and instead uses his premise to move Hellboy into a realm of ancient gods. You see, Jurescu is no ordinary vampire. He's empowered by the Greek goddess of magic Hecate, and the battle forces the hero to confront his role in the fate of the world for the first time, but certainly not the last. What we eventually learn is that his iconic red stone hand is the key to the Abyss and the Ogdru Jahad dragons sealed within it. Unleash the 7 who are one and bring about Ragnarok, the destruction of the world seen in Norse mythology. So long as Hellboy lives, it's his burden to bear. His destiny to become Anung Un Rama. Regarding his initial plans for the mythology of Hellboy, Mignola revealed, "I had almost none at the beginning, and it just kind of snowballed. By the end of the first miniseries, I had come up with a really rough idea of a certain creation myth, which is why in the first series you get this thing about the Ogdru Jahad. I had come up with a creation myth based on a little research I did. I kind of knew it would run behind all the books, but it wasn't really fleshed out. And with the second miniseries, Wake the Devil, it feels like I put a whole lot more pieces on the board. That's where Hellboy ends up being the beast of the apocalypse. A lot of the prophecies and stuff. A lot of that really started exploding in the second series. Hellboy chooses to embrace his human side out of both willful ignorance and a good heart, but his darker nature can never be fully expelled. But Hellboy as a character is far removed from demonic, dark impulses despite what his appearance may say otherwise. Mignola's decision to have his hero shave down his horns to flat discs on his head is a brilliant choice of character design. The laconic and sardonic Hellboy desperately wants to be human to the point of refusing to even think about his origins. Having lived for more than 50 years before the start of his comic adventures, he's actively avoided reckoning with it. Mignola chooses to start his series with Seed of Destruction in 1994 because it's the start of his hero confronting his true nature due to the reappearance of Rasputin. Key revelations and critical decisions beyond Wake the Devil occur in the Chained Coffin, the Nature of the Beast, the Right Hand of Doom, Boxful of Evil, the Island, and the Wild Hunt. In a traditional story structure with an adherence to the heroic cycle, Hellboy's refusal of temptation would occur once, somewhere near the nadir of his journey. The defeat of evil and his return to the normal world would result in a hero stronger than ever. Yet Hellboy is coerced by evil over and over again. One agent of destruction may be defeated, but many more remain. The result is that Hellboy's heroic journey doesn't see him continually fortified by overcoming evil, but rather gradually run down and weakened. Disillusioned with life, alcoholic, and increasingly isolated by his choices, much like the Byronic heroes of the Gothic stories that influenced Mignola's narrative choices to the same or even greater degree than the Lovecraftian horror and fairy tales that inspire his world building. The Byronic hero finds its origins in the writings of 19th century Romantic English poet Lord Byron. Much of Byron's literature centered on romantic heroes who contained a fatal flaw that often led to their doom. Their talent, passion, and romantic interests are balanced out by a dark and secret past, an isolative nature that despises society, a tendency toward exile, and an ultimately self-destructive nature. Byron himself was once described by Lady Caroline Lamb, one of his many lovers, as mad, bad, and dangerous to know. That's an appropriate description of many of the heroes brought to life by the author, a case of art and life imitating each other to equal degree. Byron first brought life to the archetype in Childe Harold, with many more following, and the archetype would continue on in the works of many others and slowly morph into the antihero. While antiheroes would abandon much of the romance and tragically self-destructive tendencies of Byron in favor of flirting with outright villainy, the Byronic hero remained an influence on many protagonists within Gothic worlds. Obviously, Hellboy is a bit more cheerful than the typical Byronic hero, full of dry humor and a certain degree of self-awareness that contrasts playfully against the wild situations into which he's been thrown. But his self-destructive impulses and willful isolation pull him toward doom. Prior to Wake the Devil, Hellboy's first glimpse of his true nature came in 1995's The Chained Coffin, where ghostly visions of the past reveal him to be the son of a demon and a former witch turned nun. Despite her renunciation of past evils, she's inevitably pulled to hell, a grim picture of a destiny that cannot be denied, no matter how one reshapes his or her soul. The encounter leaves Hellboy shaken, with the hero remarking on it later in Wake the Devil. "I like not knowing. I've gotten by for 52 years without knowing. I sleep good not knowing." Wake the Devil would deny Hellboy that peaceful rest forever, with the story seeing him confront Hecate twice. The first sees the goddess tempt him to destroy the world by her side, revealing his destiny as the beast for the first time. Their fight ends in Hecate's temporary destruction, only to be resurrected once again in the wake of Jurescu's defeat. Swallowing Hellboy into an abyss, the goddess seeks to force apocalyptic glory upon him. "Anung Un Rama, loose the dragon, for this is the ending of days. You were born into the world for this purpose only. Deliver the world back into chaos. Wake your devil heart." Mignola makes several key distinctions when portraying a demonically empowered Hellboy, floating in a black void and eventually surrounded by the Ogdru Jihad. His shaven horns, which often give the impression of goggles when rendered in Mignola's blunt line work, quickly form into thick, curved horns, unveiling a darker, demonic appearance that has been, in essence, hiding in plain sight this entire time. Their growth here, despite being part of his natural appearance, is forced on him. It's a violation. Bright, fiery breath streams from his mouth as his red-orange eyes turn a piercing yellow. Flames wreathe his head, and his body is overtaken by shadow. Hellboy is no longer the rough-and-tumble working-man adventurer, but a terrifying demon from the abyss, unknowable even to himself. But Wake the Devil also plays host to Hellboy's first rejection of his destiny, observed by Baba Yaga, Dagda of the Dinashi, and Sir Edward Grey for the first time. Given two choices by Hecate, unleash the apocalypse or die, Hellboy chooses his own path. "Oh yeah? Screw you! I choose door number 3. It's my goddamn life. I'll do what I want with it. You don't like that? Kill me if you can." A rejection of the paths presented by Hecate in his own potential role of beast, through the symbolic breaking of his own horns, gives Hellboy agency as his own person. "I think things really started to take off with Wake the Devil," said Mignola. "I put a lot of new pieces on the board with that one. Now it was clear this thing could go in a bunch of different directions, and there were suddenly a whole lot of characters that wanted to be fleshed out. At the same time, I was starting to realize I didn't want this to be a team book. I wanted to deal with who Hellboy was and where he was going. In the stories that follow, we see glimpses of destiny in many different forms. These varying interpretations of how the world could end reflect Hellboy's growth as a person, as well as how fallible even the most powerful of gods may be in the face of fate. The Right Hand of Doom in 1998 more fully explains Hellboy's role as the bringer of Ragnarok to both character and reader. The 1999 short story The Nature of the Beast hints at Hellboy's pure and noble nature that comes from his maternal lineage rather than his paternal. In Box Full of Evil in 1999, another demon attempts to steal his power. Here, Mignola adds an interesting wrinkle: the crown of the Beast of the Apocalypse. As Hellboy is subjugated through the use of his demonic name and family lineage, his crown is removed. Near death, the hero sees Dagda and the Dinashi, who he came to know in the corpse. "Anung Un Rama, world destroyer, the great beast, and upon his brow is set a crown of fire. Is that who you are? No. Well then, boy. It's not your name, is it? Is it? Once again, Hellboy takes control by standing apart from his destiny as an individual who makes his own choices. In the face of such power, even the fearsome tremble. Oh, and there's a monkey with a gun. Mignola intended to have Box Full of Evil put a close to Hellboy's Beast of the Apocalypse story, but destiny would continue to haunt both creator and creation, as 2005's two-issue series The Island would once again have Hellboy subjected to another's bid to seize his power. Within the island are Hellboy's first death, his final temptation by Hecate, and the complete reveal of the Right Hand of Doom's true nature, which is the hand of the angel who created the Ogdru Jihad that Hellboy's father grafted onto him when he was a baby. This means that Hellboy is directly tied to the creation myth and the fall of the angels. Hellboy returns to life and defeats the mystic reborn from his blood, but sinks into a deep depression. Queen Mab, who would soon play a major role in Hellboy's story, comments, "In all these years he has tried to live a man's life, but he is not a man. And now, with his death, he finally knows it. He feels the weight of this burden. He has seen the face of the creature he was meant to be." After so much temptation, after a life of loss and continual wear and tear, Hellboy reaches a dangerous point by the Wild Hunt in 2008. Hellboy turns into the beast out of sheer bloodlust in a battle against giants, and then later fights his own demonic form in a vision. No outside influence needed. The message is clear. Destiny has come calling, and Hellboy's fate as the beast is closer than ever. Once again, Hellboy must reinterpret destiny and finally end temptation by pulling the sword Excalibur from a stone and fighting for man against the Ogdru Jihad. But destiny remains. The end comes for us all eventually, for both Hellboy and his many enemies. And it comes for the world too. But what if the destruction of everything we know is the only way to move on to something greater? After all, Ragnarok in Norse mythology sees the birth of a new world after the old is burnt to ash. Hellboy's destiny is darkness, but out of this may come great light. "I've been referencing Ragnarok since the very beginning of Hellboy," said Mignola, "and it's always been the idea that one world ending means another world starts. So we've been in the middle of a creation myth for 20 years. In the end, who Hellboy is, what he makes of himself, and how he changes the world as both demon and man is up to him. His climactic battle in The Storm and the Fury, his journey of Hellboy in Hell, and his final acts in BPRD, The Devil You Know, are the result of rejecting the temptations of others and, instead, embracing his destiny in the way that only he can. Tragedy blends with triumph to become bittersweet victory. The only way any of this could ever end."